Welcome to the Sister Street Show with Mary Nunnally and Sharon and I, interactive show and virtual playground where we explore topics around entrepreneurship, online and in-person events, and the games that can be played with all of it. We invite you on our journey of sisterhood discovery and trial and error in the adventures of online entrepreneurship.
Aloha, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Sister Street Show. It is your co-hosts, Sharon and
Mary, and good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever the world you are.
So we are so excited because we have started to increase our viewership. So thank you to all of you that are with us. We are continuing the Year of the Entrepreneur series, and we've been talking about growing your business. We've started with the levels of your business and wanted to continue today with upgrading your system. So Mary, kick us off with some systems talk.
Ooh, systems talk, one of my favorite. Well, one of the things when Sharon and I were prepping is we were talking about planning and resources and how do you do things. And I use 3 different calendars, which people are just like, what? So I have a giant wall calendar that's next to my desk where I highlight big goals, not all the minutia. I use a Panda Planner to help me kind of coordinate my whole life. And then I also use a Scrum board for projects. Plus, I live and breathe by my Google Calendar, which has everywhere I'm supposed to be, where I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be. And by having these different aspects, it helps me create some of those systems because I can take a look to my right at my big board and go, oh, here's our top 3 goals for this quarter. Here's the projects. Here's where we need to be. I can look at my Panda Planner where I've broken things down into the daily tasks and the weekly tasks. And then my Scrum board I use to project manage our bigger projects. So I know who on the team is doing what and where it is in the cycle because we build courses for companies and course creators. And so this helps us keep track with all of the moving pieces. So this may not be what Sharon was looking for in terms of systems, but I just woke up. It's 7:30 on a Saturday morning. It was 70 degrees yesterday and it's snowing today. So I'm a little bit flustered.
It is exactly what I was looking for. And there is a lot to talk about with systems. So thanks, Mary. And, as you might be listening to this, you might tell that, yes, it's being posted on a different day than it was recorded. But we do try to record in a very timely fashion. And we want to pre-record so that we can prep and get you the best process, the best information possible. And that's part of how you have a system as well. So thanks, Mary, for diving deep a little bit into that planning piece. You will see in the resources, everyone, where those resources come from. Having a board up on your wall, having some type of strategic planning, whether it's a planner that's the Panda Planner, which we both love. I recommended that to Mary and she fell in love with it too. It's got some interesting prompts in it that help you think about why you're doing what you're doing. And we love that why. And then the Scrum piece is when you include other people and when you have a deadline focused type of project. So different types of tools for different types of planning so that you can manage your lifestyle and your business. That is one of the biggest systems that we believe is important in having a system. So let's back it out just a little bit, Mary. And so why are systems or what are the important types of systems in your business? Because people might think of systems in so many different ways.
Right. And different experts will tell you there's different systems that you need to have. For me personally, I need a system to keep track of my time, and that's often my calendar or my project planner. I also need a system for acquiring and nurturing my clients because otherwise things fall through the cracks. Then I'm going, oh gosh, I never followed up with that person. And then I also need a system for making sure that bills get paid on time and I get paid on time. So, that's money flowing in and money flowing out. Now, there's a lot of other systems, but because I am a smaller business, I really don't have to worry about human resources systems or that type of thing because much like many of you watching this show, we're a micro business right now with big dreams. So those are the systems that we currently have in place. What about you, Sharon?
I have very similar. So the schedule one is always a challenge for me. And so having a system around my personal schedule, my business schedule, we had to learn in the remote workforce that many of us have been either thrown into, chosen, and then decided whether we want to continue or go back. We had to recreate boundaries. So having that structure and having those boundaries between what is work and what is playtime or leisure time has become even more important. So time system, the money system that you talked about, it's always about time and money, right, Mary?
It is. It really is.
Yep. So paying your bills is really important for your integrity, your loyalty, and your success. So time and money. The client system that you mentioned is also very important because all of us have clients. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom, your clients are your kids. Whether you are a high executive CEO, you have many, many different clients, not just the ones that pay you from the outside, but your clients are also your team. So consider it from that perspective as well. But we all have people that we should report to or report to us, and having a system for your communication is important. So your money, your time, and your communication is extremely important in terms of your planning. Those are the ones I also have, Mary.
I love it. Yay. See, we're in sync. And again, this can be overwhelming sometimes as a new entrepreneur, somebody who's just dipping your toe into the pond, especially that accidental entrepreneur. And it doesn't have to be this big expensive system. As you heard me say, my Google Calendar does a lot for me, and it could be any calendar system. And as you progress in your business, you're going to find other tools that will help you. The key thing is no system is going to work if you don't use it. So that's my one little takeaway. It's just like you can have all the systems in the world, but if you don't use them, you're better off just with a piece of paper and a pen.
Absolutely. The system that works is the one that you're using. And I would also add that you should try one system at a time, because when you try to add more than one at a time, that's where you tend to either stop it altogether or get confused on the purpose of each tool that or system that you're adding. And then that pen and paper, that is a great system to start. If you're just starting on this productivity and systems journey, I would just start with this pad and paper. And I think your time is going to be your most valuable resource. Or I would say, Mary, would you agree that's probably the most important system of them all?
I would agree. Yes.
So we agree. I didn't prep her with that, so she couldn't tell
No, no, but I mean, it's
I don't
it's
agree.
we all have the same 24 hours in a day, and figuring out or determining the best way to use the time that you have available to you is key because then the other things start to fall into place.
Yep. And when you're at that retirement party or that final speech, what we've heard, because we've never been there yet, but I've had some close ones to me, not here anymore. They've graduated to the next level. They never said, I wish I worked more. They never said, I wish I made more money. They always said, I wish I had more time. So make sure that the time is the first system you tackle. It'll help you and everyone you work with or for. And the simple way is to write down every half an hour what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what you're feeling about it. Because the first thing you need to do in any system is know what's happening right now.
That's excellent. How long should you do that for though, Sharon? I mean, is this something you do forever? Is there like a week or a month, or how do you know when to stop recording your 30-minute chunks?
Yeah, so I start with just one day. And then you can start to assess whether that day is a normal day or that day is an abnormal day. But just starting with one and maybe two if you feel like it, but one day where you're tracking your emotions, you're tracking your productivity, you'll start to already notice things on where your energy lags, perhaps that 3 p.m. coffee break, where you are starting to waste time there, and where you don't want to be spending time, but you are spending more time. So you can start to be more discerning on your tasks once you've tracked one full day, every half an hour, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what you feel like. And this is a tool that came from Craig Ballantyne, who is the author of the Perfect Day Formula. He is a high productivity and discipline expert in the fitness and wellness field.
Oh, I love it. And I'm listening and I'm laughing. One of the joys of recording from home, I have my blinds pulled down for those of you in the audience that want to hear, what's going on behind the scenes. And my cat has found something and she is like climbing up and down the blinds. So if I go invisible for a minute, it's because the silly cat has opened up the blinds.
And I can hear her in the background. This is
Yeah, I don't know what she's doing, but she's just going crazy.
Mary's a cat person. I'm a dog person. My mini doodle is chewing a bone on the floor. Hopefully not audible at the moment.
So I just thought I would, let people know what those weird sounds are that they might be hearing. So
Love it.
anyway, let's get back on track and talk a little bit more about systems. I know when we were planning the show, we'd also talked last time about checklists, and I had suggested another resource for folks would be Laura Posey's Plan Your Year on a One Sheet of Paper book, which I have found really valuable as well. It helps me get focused on what are those 4 big things I want to do during the year. And then from there, and I'm doing like the 30-second recap, but from there, you know what you need to be working on each quarter. So maybe it's coming up with a product idea, as we've talked about in other episodes. You're not a business until you have something to sell to people. So maybe that first quarter is coming up with that product idea and maybe doing some research. Maybe the second quarter is bringing it to life. Maybe the third quarter is selling it. So you may not get those sales right away, but you've got to have a plan to sell something. Sharon, I'd love your take on that. And then also how this fits in with the scalable approach.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, yes, we mentioned that before, and I highly recommend you taking Mary up on our offer to read that book that she recommended, which is Laura Posey's book, How to Plan Your Entire Year in One Sheet of Paper. The key points from there: have a plan. We've talked about this ad nauseum, and we're going to continue saying it because without a plan, it's just luck and there's no system. And so we're leveling up on systems today. My take on it is that's very smart. Being able to see on paper what's happening allows you to do a reality check and understand, like, is that possible for me or is that a big stretch? If it's a big stretch, that's great, but you need to know it's a stretch. So if you hit it, you can celebrate that much bigger. If you're close to it at the end and your goal has not quite been met, that you give yourself the grace that you already knew that this was a big quarter, this was a big stretch. And then the other takeaway that Mary mentioned was within quarters. So there have been a lot of studies that have been done that planning your time in a quarter or a 3-month sprint, as we'll talk about sprints more in the future, but a sprint allows you and your body and your mind to plan far enough ahead to get momentum, because in 3 months you can gain momentum, but it's short enough that you can tangibly see and feel the results that are possible. So we like to plan in quarters. That has been proven, as I said, through many studies. So that's a good time frame for you to think about what's going to happen in the next 90 days, what happened in the last 90 days. So those are some of my takeaways, and that is also part of the scalable system, of which I'm a licensed advisor, is to do your quarterly sprint planning. And there's a whole system around it, but the first thing that you need to know is have a quarterly plan.
I love it. I love it. Because again, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, using that old saying. So Sharon, what would you say to somebody? We've already talked about the systems we use. I'm a new entrepreneur. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I'm thinking about making that shift from corporate to entrepreneur, maybe part-time. Where do I start looking for these systems? Where do I get information and help?
Absolutely. So let's start with the free resources. We've mentioned them before because we do want you to be able to research and see what works for you. And that is the SBA. The government has a lot of free resources for business plans. There's about 2 or 3 templates in there. And then Hello Alice. So we've mentioned both of those in the past, are great free resources to start to search. Use the internet and search for what systems work. And then, of course, we have the ones that we've used, that we've tried and tested. And so for me, it is the scalable system. For Mary, it is Laura Posey's system. And we do mix and match with some other systems, but those are some of the frameworks that we start with for how we plan. What we recommend is that there are 3 systems that you should start with. Once you have consistent business and you have gathered those sales, that you want to focus on number 1, your strategic planning. And strategy is different from tactics. So having a strategy means you have an overall vision and focus as you're moving into your plan. Tactics are the things that you're going to do, the ads, the content, etc. So having a strategic plan is important, and that's per quarter. So that's your first system, is planning and consistently planning, because things will always change. The second is your communication strategy and structure. So your system for communication is, who do you need to report to, how often, what are you reporting, and why. So everything that you're reporting should not just be the minutia, it should be to fall in line with your strategic quarterly plan, right? What is your communication system, Mary?
So to my team or to my clients or in
Like, do you
general?
like to use phone or email? Do you do in person?
Well, so with my team, we use Discord to stay in touch because I work with a lot of freelancers, and so Discord is our platform of choice. With clients, it's a lot of alternative platforms, Slack, Skype. I'm looking at the whole plethora that I have, and I would love someday to get all of my clients on the same platform. But Slack, Skype, Discord, WhatsApp, and Microsoft Teams, so they all light up. Phone calls are few and far between. Zoom meetings work when there is a very specific problem or question that has to be addressed. And we try to use the 3 email rule that I learned when I was in corporate. If you can't answer the question or get clarity after 3 emails, it's time to pick up the phone or hop on a Zoom to have a conversation rather than going back and forth because something's getting lost in the translation.
Love it. So, and Mary is a amazing online entrepreneur. So she is able to manage all these platforms, but you can still see how there's a possibility that a system would help level that up. And actually, Mary already has a system, but understanding why you're using a communication system, what you're using it for, how often you're using it, allows you to say, well, maybe I don't need this type of communication because I was using Zoom and Microsoft Teams and GoToMeeting, and I just decided, you know what, it's Zoom or phone, because for me it was too hard to manage. So having a system around who you communicate to, how often, what you're communicating, and then what the agenda is, the why of the communication, helps you be more clear, more effective, and more movement oriented. You're getting more things done.
Right. And Sharon, just one quick follow-up, because I know you had something else to say, is the reason, and several people said, why don't you just make everybody use the one tool? We do a lot of contract work for other companies versus working just with individual entrepreneurs. And so if I'm being contracted out by corporation X to do work for them, I can't come in and say, change everything that your company requires to meet my needs. And so that's why I have all of these different communication devices, because each of our corporate clients uses a different tool. So I did want to just clarify that for people.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a very important point, because you're going to hear a lot of chatter from everyone saying, this is the best, this is the best. The best is the one that works for you. And you've got to adapt it to your situation, because there will be contractual things like Mary has. Or if it is in your control, then you get to make a choice. But either situation is going to have its unique pieces to it. And so knowing that allows you to just don't stress about what people say is the best. Do what works for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, so that third system that we think you should focus on in upgrading your operating system or your systems is the team system, how you use and who you have on your team. So quarterly planning, strategic planning, communication, infrastructure, and then your team canvas. The team system is very important. And it seems like, well, I'm just going to fill the role that I need next. Well, guess what? If you keep doing that without a system of when you're going to hire, what you're going to hire for, how you're going to move people to the process, you will soon find that your best people will leave because they don't have a clear roadmap of what's possible for them working with you. So you need to give them a vision of, well, if you work in this role for 2 years, or if I know your goals, then I can start to move you and test you in different roles. It might seem like a lot as you're just starting out, but it is absolutely critical as well as you're going. What do you think about that, Mary, in terms of team planning?
I think that's great. And I think, again, as that accidental entrepreneur, somebody just starting out, the thought of teams can sometimes be overwhelming. So if you take it a step back, and we had chatted about this when we were planning as well, that first role that you're going to bring on board, in my mind, should be that administrative assistant or virtual assistant, somebody that can help you with those systems, whether it's sending out email communications, project managing, writing your social media posts with your guidance, but bringing somebody in so that you can focus more on that strategic piece of your business. And then as you grow, thinking about what are those other key roles that you need to bring on board. So Sharon, what do you think about that first hire?
I agree. And yes, we discussed this before, guys, but we have had large teams, Mary and I, when we were in corporate, and we talked about what was the most important role for us. And then as entrepreneurs, we've gone through iterations of who we're hiring and made mistakes and found what works. And it's that administrative assistant, that executive assistant, that personal assistant, whatever you want to call them, that VA, that is the perfect first hire, we believe. And it's
Yes.
because you are the leader, you are the CEO. Whatever role you have, you are a leader in that role. And your job is to focus on the highest value tasks, which are typically going to be strategic planning, sales, and innovation, or customer service quality. So the customer service delivery, all those other things need to stay with someone that now you can offload tasks to. And I know it's really tempting, guys, to say, well, I'm not good at sales, or some of the other things that you might not be trained for, but nobody's going to sell your product with more passion, more knowledge than you are. So make sure that you focus on the tasks that are the highest value, and then start to delegate and delete the things that are not.
Yes. And in that process, and I know we're close to wrapping up the show, the one thing I would say though is keep in mind the reason you started your business. And if giving all of your time and energy to the strategic plan and focus does not bring you joy, does not make you happy, save some of those projects that will keep you in touch with what you started and why you started your business. But always keep in mind that you have to get out of those weeds, as we used to say in the hotel restaurant business. You got to get out of the weeds to see the bigger picture. But if you want to go in and keep your skills sharp and work on something, that's okay. But just keep that balance.
Absolutely, yes. So last iteration, we want you to upgrade your systems. Number one, your strategic planning as a system, consistent and purposeful. Your communication is your second, and your team is your third. Last point on team is that everyone should only report to one person. So as you assess all the tasks that everyone's doing, you'll find that certain really high value people are reporting to too many bosses, or are doing too many things that are really critical. And no matter how good they are, if they, and you might be one of they, if they have too many high important tasks, you've got to create a plan again, for how to diversify and make sure that each important thing is having one person attached to it, and one person only reports to one boss.
That makes so much sense. And the other thing to keep in mind is always be flexible, because there are going to be things that happen and your plan changes. And we'll dive that more deeply into that in another episode. But Sharon, thanks so much for that very concise, very powerful overview of how to level up your systems. What are we going to be talking about next episode?
So the next episode, we're going into levels 4 and 5. It's starting to be the scalable part of our system, because now we've gotten consistency, we've gotten some structure and systems, and now we want to level up. So that's to come as you're moving from this level and level 3 and going into the next one. Also, just remember, and that's why we finish with team, that it is the only way to grow your business and scale is through people, not through yourself.
Great words of wisdom. So if you're enjoying what you've heard today, follow us on sisterstreet.show. Drop a comment on the channel, subscribe, like us, but drop a comment and let us know the system that you struggle with the most or the system you would like to learn more about, because we're going to be doing some special episodes after we finish walking through all of the systems that we have been talking about. So we want to tailor this show to your likes, needs, and wants. So please drop us a note. And with that,
We'll
we're
see
going
you
to sign off for today.
again. Yes. Aloha.
Well, bye, everyone.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for future videos.